I found this interesting, and I found this interesting back in April, or actually, we found out back in May, when Eric Sprott sold his Silver Trust units, and I always thought, wow, that's uncanny how he did that, and but I always was curious as to what he might have said that would have hinted that he was going to do that. And if you look back, I never found nothing that hinted that he was going to do that. And of course, he should have been tight-lipped about it because it would have crushed his ETF fund. But what I'm getting at, I always thought that he must have known something. He must have known something, but he will never say. It goes on in this article. It's unclear at the time why Sprott has sold his shares. A request of an explanation has been put in with Sprott. Now, of course, he doesn't have to say anything other than, I felt the market was kind of high, so I sold, or whatever. Regardless of the reasoning, the timing looks quite precedent, considering that the price of silver has come off, did come off a great deal in the beginning of May. I was always curious about this. I know Stella Concepts sold silver back at this time, and it wasn't due to any kind of, it's just due to the fact that the market was doing so damn good that it almost seemed too good to be true, and it turned out to be a good call. If I had some, actually, I will sell his units if I see silver go up to about, $68 or $65. I will sell half of my Sprott ETFs at that time and wait for a pullback and buy physical or move into another metal. That's what I would do myself, because I don't plan on keeping any of this stuff long term either. I found this interesting at this time, back at that time again, May 2nd. Here this is Max Keiser, and I think this is from Max himself, talking, it looks as if Eric Sprott is up to his old tricks again. And I agree with this guy. I don't believe that he was up to any kind of tricks, but somehow I do find it uncanny that he was able to make that prediction. Yet there's not a hint from him that that market turn was forthcoming. So it looks like he locked in his net asset value premium, which was Sprott fund goes up a little faster than spot price of silver, so it is a good fund to use. I'm not going to use it long term. I know that. But I do find that interesting that he was able to call that, because it's very, you really never get to get kind of information from these people, including Max Keiser or anybody. So I'm always looking for information that's going to be the right place to put money, because I'm not 110% physical silver, but I probably will be going. I am moving more and more physical as time goes on. This I found interesting. It was about Indian silver demand to blossom, amidst the festival. In other words, they have a lot of year-end traditions and customs and festivals that will require precious metals buying on their part in India, and they're talking that since the gold-silver ratio is quite high, silver looks like a screaming buy compared to gold. So most people are going to choose a more affordable alternative at the current silver prices, and some analysts think that it could come in 50% higher demand in 2011 from India than it did in 2010. So talking about fourth quarter 2010 compared to fourth quarter 2011, expect a 50% increase in demand over the comparing those two periods, fourth quarter 2010 to fourth quarter 2011, a 50% increase in demand in India, just from India alone. So they're talking they're going to be taking 250 to 300 tons of silver demand just in the one quarter, 2011. So, I think you probably could see quite a bit of a price jump in silver, not to hit record levels by the end of the year, but despite all the market rigging, whatever you want to call it, you might, this is a Silver Institute. They're talking about possibly $40 silver by year end. And to me, I mean, I can easily see over $40, maybe not 47 or $49, but $40 to $43 by year end. Um, the price has been at that level for a good portion of the year. And again, they're talking about the inflation rate in India has been soaring, so the price of silver looks like it's moving a lot better in their country than it might be in other countries, with the double-digit and almost double-digit inflation. Now, they're not mentioning China here too much, but China actually may be doing a lot of internal buying. They're the third largest producer of silver in the world, and they have a limit on their exports. So, and it's very, I would imagine it's very tough to get a real number out of China because of what they're actually buying, because I would think there's a lot of cash deals going on, from maybe smaller retail shops, barter arrangements. Who the heck knows? Maybe people are being paid for silver for work. Who knows? You don't even know what could be going on. So it's very difficult to ascertain, I would imagine, in the case of China, exactly how much physical silver is being sold to the population in a very precise way. Again, talking about India, in October, imports of gold and silver rose 40% to $7.2 billion. And here the Silver Institute forecasts that gold and silver will benefit as a safe haven. Now, I agree with that 110%, that a safe haven is the physical metals, but it is actually the common belief of most people with not all, most people with large sums of money, even the ones that might have $30 or $50 million that can easily put a large percent of their money into silver and gold and other precious metals. They will not do it because it's been their experience of over the last 40 to 50 years that the metals are very volatile. Even the price of gold, it can go way the hell up. You could be holding it and you could lose a whole hell of a lot of money on it. So they will avoid this stuff. They will avoid this stuff. So, it's the wrong thing to do. But, I kind of disagree with how most investors are going to be thinking. They're probably not going to be thinking of this as a safe haven. And even though they're wrong, I don't think that's what's going to cause that. People to jump into gold and silver as much. A lot of the big money does the wrong thing. Now, as far as the certain element of big money, yeah, they are doing the right thing. You're talking central banks. They know what they're doing. They're buying this stuff up. This I found interesting about Palladium. Now, Palladium has been down a lot, and I think it has a lot to do with these stories and about, which I'm sure are correct information. But Palladium sees the largest surplus in 4 years in 2011. So it says Palladium will show its biggest market surplus in 4 years in 2011 as sales of Russian stockpiles of palladium and disinvestment outweigh the record auto catalyst demand in the auto industry. So they must have released a whole lot of stockpiles of palladium out of Russia, because looking back at this article, 2010, the total demand for palladium was 8.5 million ounces, and they had a deficit of 1.25 million ounces to be made up by Russian inventory supplies of palladium. 2011, it went up a third to 11.5 million ounces. Demand for 2011, 11.5 million ounces. And that agrees with the other article. They said they had a record automotive year, and despite that, there was the supplies are bigger. And they're talking about a deficit in 2011 of 3.75 million ounces. So in this article, the question is, will the Russian supplies be able to make up for this deficit? Well, obviously they did, because they were able to, instead of putting out 1.25 million ounces on the market like they did in 2010, they were able to put 3.75 million ounces plus. They drove the worldwide surplus of 725,000 ounces, or 3/4 million ounces, to a deficit of 500,000 ounces last year. In other words, well, excuse me, the other way around. They drove the deficit of 500,000 ounces up to a surplus worldwide of 3/4 million ounces. So they were able to be able to dump 3.75 million ounces in 2011 to make up for the demand. Plus, they were able to increase the global supply up to 725,000 ounces. In other words, they were able to bring a 500,000 deficit up to 3/4 million ounces surplus. So they must have had to dump 5 million ounces on the market. So that, if you weren't born yesterday, that tells you what they're doing. They want the price down a lot, and it's probably going to spring up pretty quick. Back in 2010, they point out it was the star performer in the precious metals market. Now this year it's a star dud, so it's not doing good. But back in 2010, it actually even outperformed silver a little bit. So what could happen in 2012, since they suppressed the price by dumping all these inventories? Maybe at this particular price point, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot higher from where it's going to go to. In terms of supply, sales of official stocks of Russian palladium are expected to have fallen by 25% to 753/4 million ounces this year as the state runs down its excess inventory. So it's telling me they're running out of inventory, and they must have really piled on a lot of palladium onto the market to make up for this record auto catalytic demand from the auto industry. And this is usually the game that's played in all the metals markets. If you could pile it on, do a lot of sales in gold, a lot of sales on you could bring out stockpiles of palladium or whatever you're going to do, it'll drive the prices down. So today we're looking at about, $600 palladium. This is actually a screaming buy more than anything, and people will avoid this because all last year it went down in value, and they will avoid it because they see it's dropping, and they'll avoid it for all these reasons. And you know what? This is the metal of all four of these that's probably going to do the best. But maybe it'll be running neck and neck with silver this year. I'm not sure. For 2012. So, word to the wise. It's all market psychology, and it does look like Russia did have to dump a whole hell of a lot of palladium on the market this last year. And I find that interesting. Because if their supplies are running low, why did they dump so much? And it's what you'd have to give you the common sense answer is to drive the price down. Because they're probably holding back supplies. I know there's a supply in Switzerland or something like that they're holding part of their inventory in. They're waiting for the price to go up to get rid of it. So this is part of the game. So take a look at this metal besides silver. If you're in the market for any kind of gold, definitely get the palladium.